Doomsday, the villain is always pretending to be the virgin author. Daisy copywriting, the Holy Mother role-playing system dug out a delicate girl from the game world as its host. It looked at Qi Ying with a pure face, and secretly affirmed in his heart that this watery appearance is simply the best candidate for the Holy Mother. After binding, it discovered that this delicate flower is the villain boss of the game. The system is faintly worried. Yes, it should be fine, right? So, it saw Qi Ying standing in a pool of blood, with the light of the Virgin above her head, holding a zombie's head and weeping. She burst into tears. God, they are so pitiful. Everyone, is this person sick? Seeing the ever-increasing Virgin Mary value, the system covered its eyes. Don't think it didn't see it. Isn't that bunch of zombie heads all her masterpieces? Gu Qi picked out a woman from the pile of zombies, with tears in her eyes and blood all over her body. He reasonably suspected that this was a dangerous person who had been infected, so he tied her up decisively, and put the gun against her eyebrows, waiting to mutate at any time. The woman he pointed at with the gun suddenly turned her head, which seemed to be a sign of mutation. Gu Qi looked resolute, and was about to shoot when he saw her looking at him lovingly. You are so ruthless, you must have suffered some injuries before. It's okay, I don't blame you. Gu Kai's hand trembled, almost going off fire. Thank you, he didn't. In the small team struggling to survive in the last days, an unpleasant woman suddenly came. She had no ability, and she even sympathized with the zombies? It's ridiculous. Until one day, they discovered that the woman with the heart of the Virgin was bleeding the nose and tears, while opening the zombie's head with bare hands, and using those slender hands to search for the crystal nucleus in its brain. Everyone, pupil earthquake Gu Qi followed behind Qi Ying, taking the crystal nuclei she handed over one by one, without any awareness of being the captain. Everyone? What about your captain's baggage? Gu Qi had no psychological pressure. It's really cool to lie down. Demoning, in addition to pretending to be zombies, the heroine is really kind at other times, and demoning the cutie who can't accept this kind of setting. However, the force value of the heroine is really cruel, but the Holy Mother will never drag down the people around her. The super cute cover is sent by the wife of the forum. Content tags: Strong Power End Time Search Keywords, Protagonist, Qi Ying, Gu Qi Supporting Role, Lu Yunfei, Mu Yu Others, One Sentence Introduction, True Character Conception, Spread Positive Energy and Build a Better New World. In the dim cave, only a few spars glowing with faint fluorescence are illuminated. In the deepest part of the cave, 2 chains extend from the stone wall, and the other end is wrapped around a pair of slender ankles. Qi Ying sat on the ground, stroked the thick anklet slightly, and yawned lazily. Today is the server shutdown day of the game, and it is also her last day as a villain. After today, no more players will come here. And she will be automatically destroyed by the program after 3 minutes. Thinking of this, Qi Ying lowered her eyes. She kicked off her anklet in boredom, unable to make any waves about the fate that was about to befall her. Virtual intelligence detected. Intelligence testing. Qi Ying raised her head and circled around. Who is speaking? Intelligence is up to the standard, and it has reached the standard of ordinary humans. Appearance condition testing. The appearance matches the Virgin Mary figure. The system starts binding. She couldn't find the source, so she got up and groped around the wall to see if any players were accidentally trapped there. The chains on her ankles restricted her movement. Qi Ying frowned, exerted a little force on her feet, and the shackles that bound her broke instantly. If there are players here, they will be surprised. The only thing in the game that can restrain the strongest villain is this chain. But now, is this chain so easily broken? Host Qi Ying has been bound. Identity, XX Game Final Boss. The voice suddenly stopped, as if something was wrong. Boss? This little girl is the game boss. However, once the host is bound, there is no going back. Caught off guard by hearing her own name, Qi Ying hadn't had time to be surprised, but the next second her eyes went dark and she lost consciousness. The common sense of the world has been transmitted, and the external channel is opening. The electronic sound without ups and downs sounds inexplicably sad at the moment. When she opened her eyes again, Qi Ying was already in another world. Shelves, and a few scattered supplies. It looks like a large supermarket. The thing that claimed to be a system stuffed a lot of strange things in her mind, and she can tell now that this place should be called a supermarket. It's just that there is nothing in this supermarket, and there seems to be no staff guarding it. Boom! Qi Ying turned her head to look at the source of the sound. Boom! Again, what's behind the shelf? She hesitated, and decided to go around and have a look. She poked her head out from the side of the shelf, just in time to meet the eyes of a creature that was tentatively called a humanoid. Ho ho! Someone! Only! Qi Ying opened her eyes wide, feeling a little surprised. This person looks so weird. The whole body is grey-green, and there are all kinds of strange black spots on the face, like corpse spots, sunken face, and protruding eyeballs. In short, the person is as long as he is ugly. The host force value is sufficient, please solve the low-level zombies here as soon as possible. The electronic sound of the system sounded a little cold, and it was still immersed in the fact that Qi Ying was the villain boss. God knows, it just wants to find a vase with a simple mind and easy-to-do tasks. Zombie? Isn't it human? Qi Ying asked subconsciously. No. This is the end of the world, a world derived from novels. Human beings mutate into zombies after being infected with zombie virus, with only low-level intelligence. Let me introduce myself to you. I am the system bound to you, and I found you in order to collect the value of the Holy Mother. The low-level zombie walked towards Qi Ying step by step, making a piercing ho-ho sound. Qi Ying didn't back away, just looked at it from the corner of the eye, searching for other zombies very quickly. You need to act in accordance with the story of the Virgin. Every time you collect a point of Virgin, you will get 100 points. Points allow you to exchange for supplies in the system mall. Qi Ying probably understood what was going on. That is to say, she was brought to this so-called end-time world by the system, and exchanged for living supplies by collecting Holy Mother values. What can I do in exchange for supplies? I should be able to get food and supplies myself. She still has this ability. The system is stuck. It knows Qi Ying's strength. She has no use for those things in its mall. If you accumulate 2 million points, maybe you can save the world? The system said with a guilty conscience. Not to mention how difficult it is to reach 2 million points, just saving the world makes many people flinch. Regardless of whether you are interested or not, even if you really have such a big ambition, you will be exhausted with the burden of saving the world on your head. Qi Ying's eyes suddenly lit up. Save the world? Is this something a villain like her can do? The system breathed a sigh of relief. It can be regarded as keeping people. One more question, what do you mean by collapse? This world is derived from the novel, but the plot does not completely follow the plot of the novel. Because of the change of the plot, the setting of the hero and heroine of the world has changed. The changes in their personalities have caused the balance of good and evil in the world to be disrupted. That's why I need you to complete the Holy Mother's script to make up for the good value of the world. Qi Ying nodded. Although she still has some doubts, it is clear that the situation in front of her does not allow her to ask more questions. Within a short time, dozens of zombies had discovered her and surrounded her from all sides. She raised her hand and shook her fist. With a light hook of the fingertips, the air seemed to be cut open by something, slightly distorted. And when the finger was released, a wind blade flew out at an extremely fast speed, cutting off the head of a zombie in the blink of an eye. She then condensed more wind blades, and when she was about to throw them out, she suddenly withdrew her hand. It's too much trouble to kill one by one. It's better to wait for them to come together and solve it together. Qi Ying silently played with the wind blades and gathered them, just waiting for them to surround them. Only the system silently stared at Qi Ying's harmless face, his pupils trembling. Who would have thought that a girl with such a face could be so lethal? Ho! The zombie with one arm missing was the first to approach her. She took half a step back and leaned her back against the shelf to keep her back from being exposed. They were getting closer and closer, all the zombies surrounded her, and the closest two were only 1 meter away from her. It was almost within reach of scratching her. Qi Ying counted down silently in her heart. 3, 2. Bang bang. After a few shots, the two nearest zombies fell to the ground. Qi Ying looked up in surprise. Why did she fall down before she even made a move? It is detected that there are human beings around you, please prepare the host and get the Holy Mother value. Immediately afterwards, the rest of the zombies around Qi Ying also died instantly. Only this time, they didn't die from gunshots, but were directly pierced through the brain by a series of ice blades. Both ends of the ice blade are sharp and streamlined, with very little energy remaining on them. Being able to use such a small amount of energy to make an ice blade with strong attack power shows how delicately its owner controls it. The ice blade pierced through the back of each zombie's head, revealing the tip of the ice directly between the brows. As a result, the zombie's blood splashed all over Qi Ying. She looked in the direction of the ice blade. A man in what appears to be a black combat uniform, with a gun in his left hand, is facing her. In the other hand, a faint blue halo is fleeting. Obviously, he was the one who just killed these zombies. Team leader. Gu team. Immediately afterwards, a man and a woman appeared in Qi Ying's sight. Seeing Qi Ying, the man calling captain was surprised. Hey, there are still living people in this ghost place. Don't get close, you follow me. With a gun in his hand, the man named Gu Dui glanced at him. She was surrounded by zombies just now, she may have been infected. He threw the gun to the man and walked towards Qi Ying. Host, Holy Mother. The system beeped. Qi Ying came back to her senses, looked around, and then had an idea. Gu Qi kicked away the zombies blocking the way, approached her, and was about to say something when he suddenly froze. The woman in front of him was very beautiful, but Gu Kai's focus was not on that. She is very clean, except for the place that was just stained with the blood of the zombies. It doesn't look like she was born in the last days. This looks fragile, and there is a high possibility of being bitten by a zombie. Qi Ying pursed her lips tightly and looked at him with tears in her eyes. The tears were about to fall, as if she had suffered a lot of grievances, and also seemed to be compassionate. Gu Kai's heart felt cold, and he thought coldly, crying so hard, he was really bitten. Wow, Captain! Liu Yunfei, who was following behind him, poked his head, just in time to see her staring at Gu Qi with tears in his eyes, and said in surprise, "You're crying, your wife." Gu Kai's eyelids twitched, "Get out." Also, she didn't seem to be crying to herself. "Is it infected or not?" Liu Yunfei said seriously. He carefully looked at the woman in front of him who appeared here for some reason, and became more and more surprised. This girl is a bit too pretty, especially in this cannibalistic world. Being outstanding is really not a good thing. Her complexion is very fair, and her clothes are very normal. Short-sleeved shorts, without any weapons, and the clothes on his body are not defensive at all. His arms and thighs are exposed, as if he is saying to the group of zombies, "I'm weak, come and eat me." He thought he was lucky, but when he looked at the woman in front of him, he realized that there were really people who were so dead. "Not sure yet, tie it up and take it with you, and let Songshi and the others check it later to see if there is any wound." It is indeed difficult to see the specific situation in Qi Ying's current situation. Although she couldn't see any wounds on her body, her exposed arms and legs under her shorts were all splashed with black and red blood from the zombie just now. "Okay." Liu Yunfei took out the rope from his backpack, ready to tie her up. and asked, "What's your name? It's convenient to call you Qi Ying." Seeing that she was still crying, Lu Yunfei couldn't help comforting him. "It's okay, those zombies are already dead. You don't have to be afraid. They're dead." "Yeah, they're dead. You're lucky." He sighed viscerally. This lucky value, if he lived in a peaceful age, he would have to take her to buy a lottery ticket. Qi Yang sniffed suddenly, "But they used to be, also living human beings." Lu Yunfei. "Okay?" Qi Ying slid to the ground, weeping and complaining, "They used to be human beings like us, but now they have become like this, how pitiful." Lu Yunfei was stunned for a while, and after confirming that she was really talking about those zombies, he was dumbfounded. Gu Qi narrowed his eyes, doubting his hearing for the first time. Did he save a cerebral palsy? Lu Yunfei thought about her words for a while, and after confirming that she was really talking about those zombies, he was dumbfounded. Gu Qi narrowed his eyes. Did he save a cerebral palsy? Congratulations to the host, you have obtained 3 Holy Mother points. 300 points have been credited. 3 Virgin Mary points, meaning that the other 3 people present, except for Qi Ying, were all shocked by the brilliance of her Virgin Mary. Qi Ying silently wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes. Although it is done a little, but the effect is remarkable. Lu Xingyun opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but his eyes caught somewhere, and he suddenly shouted, "Captain, one of them is not dead." Gu Qi caught a glimpse from the corner of his eye, raised his hand, and neatly gave the zombie an ice blade as his last gift. "Tie her up and take her away first, it's not appropriate to stay here for long." Hearing this, Lu Yunfei immediately squatted down, tied Qi Ying's hands behind his back, and then stood up. Generally speaking, when infected people first show symptoms, they often attack with their nails and teeth, which is how they transmit the virus. Therefore, as long as their hands are tied and their mouths are blocked in the early stage, the risk can be effectively reduced. Originally, he wanted to stuff something into Qi Ying's mouth, but after hesitating for a while, he chose to give up. These people, the ones with the lowest ability, are all 3-level supernatural beings. More than enough to deal with a little girl. Gu Qi asked, "Did you find any food?" "Yes." The woman standing at the end replied. "I just glanced briefly. The freezer has no power supply, and the meat has gone bad, but there are still some rice noodles, instant food, and so on." Qi Ying looked over. It's a woman with medium-length hair, her hair tied in the back is very sassy, and her appearance is also quite heroic. As if sensing her gaze, the woman snorted coldly and turned her head away from her. "Well, good luck," Gu Qi said lightly. "At this time, you can still find supermarkets that have not been emptied, and there is still a lot of food left." Lu Yunfei suddenly turned his head to look at Qi Ying, and became more and more convinced that she was the lucky one. He considered quite seriously, if he brought this girl with him, he felt that their harvest would at least double. Aside from the shock of what she said just now, the luck bonus brought by this is simply not too pleasant. Qi Ying didn't know that she had been treated as a mascot. Her hands were handcuffed behind her back, and she had no hands to support the ground. It was a little difficult for her to get up. "Let's split up, Mu Yu, since you just looked at the food section, I'll leave the shelf on the right to you. Lu Yunfei, go to the left and see if there are any daily necessities." Gu Qi made a plan. He glanced at Qi Ying, "I'm in charge of cleaning up all the zombies here, collecting crystal nuclei, and watching her by the way." "Okay. Clear." After the two separated and left, Qi Ying followed behind Gu Qi. Almost every few steps the two of them took, Gu Qi stopped and threw an ice blade, and he hit every shot. Some of the zombies he killed were not even within Gu Kai's field of vision, and he could judge their location just by hearing, which showed how terrifying his perception was. And she found that this person's abilities seemed to be in a semi-depleted state, as if he had overused it. No wonder he has such precise control over abilities. Pfft. Qi Ying inexplicably found it funny. It turned out that it was because there was no one, so I searched and searched. Gu Qi turned his head, stared at her coldly, and said leisurely, "It's funny." "Fine." He twitched the corners of his mouth and smiled, "Don't you feel sorry for those zombies now?" Qi Ying seemed to be reminded by him. She burst into tears again in a few breaths, and buried her head in silence. She cried very quietly, only faint sobs could be heard from time to time. Gu Qi. He was wrong and shouldn't have provoked her. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 1, and 100 points are obtained. After cleaning up the zombies, Gu Qi began to collect zombie crystal nuclei. Crystal nuclei can help them recover abilities quickly. Even if the supernatural person absorbs the energy in the crystal nucleus to a certain extent, it is possible to break through the supernatural level. There have been such precedents before, but Gu Qi is not one of them. The location of the crystal nucleus is very special, it condenses and forms inside the zombie's brain. Therefore, the method of obtaining crystal nuclei is uncruel. When Gu Qi broke open the head of the first zombie, he hesitated a little, because behind him was a very caring Qi Ying. But until he chopped open a zombie's skull with a machete and pulled out a thumb-sized crystal nucleus from the head, the people behind him didn't respond at all. Even a normal person would feel nauseated or scared when seeing such a scene. But why is this woman silent? He turned his head, just about to open his mouth to ask why he was not afraid when he saw his head poked up now. But in the blink of an eye, he thought of the scene where the woman was crying because of his cheap mouth just now, so he quickly suppressed the question. Qi Ying obediently followed him, watching him open one brain after another, and then put the crystal nucleus that he took out into the leather bag pinned to his waist. After such a short period of time, the bag was already half full, and it looked quite heavy hanging around his waist. After walking half a circle around the supermarket, Gu Qi returned to the place where Qi Ying was first besieged. The crystal nuclei of nearly 10 zombies here have not been taken out yet. But he suddenly stopped in front of the corpse of a zombie for a full minute. "Okay. Why don't you leave?" Qi Ying stuck her head out from behind him and took a look. Oh, it turned out to be the zombie she killed with the wind blade. Have there been other supernatural beings here before? Gu Qi asked her aloud. Hey? I don't know. If it is admitted that she did it, how can the Virgin Mary be maintained in the future? Gu Qi looked at the zombie whose neck had been cut off directly, with a serious expression. This is not the trace of the blade, but more like the work of the wind ability. And obviously it took a lot of energy to produce such a neat cut surface. At a glance, it is completely different from his method of using supernatural powers. Gu Qi pursed his lips, very dissatisfied. This is too extravagant. To deal with this low-level zombie, obviously only a little energy is enough. Qi Ying was behind him and couldn't see his expression clearly, but she keenly felt that he was in a very bad mood at the moment. Is there something wrong with her method of killing zombies? Gu Qi silently swept all the crystal nuclei in this area, and all the crystal nuclei in the entire supermarket were in his waist pocket by now. He leaned against the shelf and looked at Qi Ying in blank dismay. Gu Qi. Qi Ying. He finally couldn't help asking, I killed so many zombies, and they used to be human beings like me, why aren't you afraid? Qi Ying opened her eyes wide. After the outbreak of the zombie virus, you must have suffered a lot, that's why you became so cruel. It doesn't matter, I know that when you killed them, you must have suffered as much as me. When she said this, she had an I understand expression that could empathize with him. Thank you, he didn't. He was born so ruthless, by nature. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 1. Captain, I'm done. Captain Gu, I'm fine too. Lu Yunfei and Mu Yu came back just in time, saving the embarrassing atmosphere between them. Qi Ying looked at the two of them in surprise. Didn't you say that you are going to collect supplies? But why don't they have anything in their hands? Should have spatial abilities. The system answered her question aloud. Qi Ying asked in her heart, spatial abilities? Is it just to put things in the portable space? I such that. Qi Ying, wow. However, spatial abilities are rare. In the book, among Gu Kai's team members, only Mu Yu has spatial abilities. And she is also a double ability user with space ability and fire ability. Qi Ying remembered that the system said that this is the world in the book, so it should have a plot direction. She asked, so Gu Qi is the hero? His powers seem to be the strongest of all. No, Gu Qi is the last villain in the book. Ah! She said in surprise. Gu Qi and his party gave her a strange look. But since they met Qi Ying, they didn't feel that there was anything normal about her, so they looked away without any surprise. Qi Ying continued to talk to the system in her mind, the villain? But they don't look like, they feel kind. Host, you have not had close contact with humans, they are very complicated. Maybe hiding their side behind the scenes is pretty scary. So, host, please don't expose your abilities for the time being, otherwise, once discovered, I don't know what they will use you for. Qi Ying frowned. She actually feels that these people are not bad. You are in front. Qi Ying reacted for a few seconds before she was sure that Gu Qi was talking to her. She stepped forward and walked ahead. Mu Yu and Lu Yunfei were at the front, while Gu Qi was at the back of the line. A modified off-road vehicle was parked under the supermarket, and the outside was covered with a layer of protective skin similar to an armored vehicle. Yunfei, you drive, and I will deal with the zombies along the road in front. He looked at Mu Yu, sit with her in the back, watch her, and report immediately if there is anything unusual. Mu Yu nodded, understood. She stuffed Qi Ying in first, and then got into the car by herself. When the car started, Mu Yu stared at the back of the seat in front with a cold face, but refused to turn around to say a word to Qi Ying. Qi Ying glanced out the window and asked, where are we going? Go join the rest of the team. Mu Yu clenched his fists, feeling a little annoyed at his disappointment. She didn't like what Qi Ying said just now. After all, they worked hard all day, risking their lives to kill zombies, but this woman who appeared out of nowhere sympathized with those zombies instead. But she sneaked a glance at Qi Ying who was sitting beside her from the corner of her eye. It's really beautiful, much more beautiful than Song Shi. She is obedient and clean, her eyes are as clear as those in comics. She pinched herself, scolded herself for not being up to date, and couldn't help being a little annoyed. Sure enough, he is good looking, and he has the ability to not be annoying even in death. Oh thank you. Mu Yu. Day, so good. In the end they ended up in a small abandoned factory. There is also a similar off-road vehicle parked inside the factory, but the outer skin is a little worn, as if it has been scratched by the claws of some kind of beast. Obviously, this car has been besieged by zombies. Seeing them coming back, the first one to get out of the car was a woman. Before Gu Qi and the others got out of the car door, she was waiting outside the car door. Lu Yunfei got out of the car first. She smiled and said, Brother Lu, how is the result? It's not bad, there's something to eat. Great, Brother Gu's judgment is indeed correct. There are really supplies here. I just suggested that everyone go and have a look, without making any judgments. Gu Qi came down from the other side and retorted upon hearing the words. He didn't want to put the credit on himself, but it was just luck this time. The woman's smile faltered, but she quickly realized, no matter what, the result of you leading everyone is always good. Gu Qi glanced at her and said nothing. After Mu Yu got out of the car, she went straight to the other side and opened the door. Mu Yu, don't you have space? Why did you put your things in the car? Song Shi asked with a smile when she saw her open the door. Not something. Before Mu Yu finished speaking, Qi Ying happened to get out of the car. Her hands were tied, so she couldn't open the door. Songshi saw a woman coming out of the car, such a beautiful woman, and her expression was a little strange for a moment. But no one else noticed. She smiled again. This is. Her name is Qi Ying, and she is a survivor we found in the supermarket. But I'm not sure if she was bitten by a zombie. Mu Yu explained. Gu Qi also looked at Songshi. You and Mu Yu help her check if there is any wound, and if there is no wound, take her first. Songshi's eyes flickered, and he breathed a sigh of relief. She was a little amused at her selfishness. No matter how beautiful she was, Gu Qi couldn't possibly take a second look at her. She is overly sensitive. Her tone was gentle. Okay, is Qi Ying right? Come with me first. After being checked and confirmed that there was no wound, the rope on Qi Ying's body was also loosened. Mu Yu looked at her from top to bottom. You are covered with zombie blood. I'll go outside to get some water, you can wash it off. Qi Ying opened her mouth. In fact, she also has the ability of the water system, so she can solve it by herself. But remembering the system's instructions, she finally said nothing. After a while, Mu Yu came back with a bucket of clean water. The stove is in use. It's summer now, and you look clean again. Can you wipe it with cold water? Yes, thank you. Qi Ying took the bucket in her hand. As soon as she took it, she realized that something was wrong. This water. It's so cold, not like the water temperature that can be hit in this summer. Is it cold? Mu Yu frowned. If it feels cold, I'll borrow the stove. This is the water that Duigu made with his abilities. He is a water type and later mutated into an ice type, so there will be a little ice. If you are not used to it, don't be embarrassed, just say it straight. Mu Yu felt that she had never been so gentle to anyone in her life. The main reason is that Qi Ying really looks like a porcelain doll that will break when touched, so she always treats it with care unconsciously. No, it's completely usable. Qi Ying felt a little guilty. That original ability named Gu Qi is no longer enough, she still consumes it like this. Go and wash, we have to eat later. Qi Ying nodded. When she came out, the rest of the people had their meals ready. Seeing her coming, Lu Yunfei greeted, have you cleaned up? Come and eat. They don't have a table, and several people gather together, and there are cooked dishes in the middle pot. But fresh vegetables are almost invisible, and they are all instant dishes cooked with seasoning. She scanned around and found a new face that she hadn't seen before. He is a very tall and strong man. But almost everyone else here agreed that Qi Ying would be placed in a safe area in a few days, so they didn't intend to introduce the team members to her one by one. Fortunately, we found so many things today, we can have a few good meals. Lu Yunfei helped her serve a bowl of porridge. Qi Ying took it with both hands, and saw that there was no place around the pot, so she moved to the side and found a place to sit, holding the bowl and eating slowly. Mu Yu pretended to glance at her inadvertently, seeing that she was eating bit by bit without any resistance, and was slightly relieved. She always felt that Qi Ying's temperament would be that of a spoiled young lady, and she was afraid that their relationship would be rejected. Songshi was also a little surprised. She felt the same way as Mu Yu, and was ready to listen to Qi Ying's complaints, but she didn't expect her to have any other emotions. For some reason, a feeling of discomfort suddenly surged up in her heart, like the unhappiness of some ulterior expectation being frustrated. Her eyes flashed. By the way, tell us what happened to you today. How can you find such a beautiful girl in that kind of place? This girl is really super lucky. Lu Yunfei started talking endlessly about how she met Qi Ying, and how lucky she was to survive in that kind of place. He said a few words, and Songshi would follow up, including Mu Yu who would occasionally strike up a conversation. It seemed that Qi Ying was isolated from them invisibly. It was only when they were about to chat that Gu Qi suddenly said, "How are your abilities recovering?" "I've almost recovered 2/3. Mu Yu spoke out first. She has both space and fire abilities, both of which are only level 3, so she recovers quickly. I'm only on at herd. Liu Yunfei frowned. He had consumed too much before, and he was a 4th level superhuman. Me too. The tall man continued. Gu Qi narrowed his eyes. Song Shi said softly, there are not many residents in the safe zone who were treated some time ago. They have recovered a little in the past 2 days, but they are still less than half of their full state. Her ability has reached the 4th level, and her talent is excellent. Almost half of it recovered in just a few days. This is where she is most proud. Gu Qi didn't hear the pride in her words, he just kept silent for a few seconds and said, thanks for your hard work. He took off the leather bag from his waist. Everyone absorb all the crystal nuclei tonight. I hope to recover almost tomorrow. You don't need Captain Gu. Mu Yu looked at him. Need not. Tisk, Captain, your abilities are really bottomless. Is this the difference between a 6th level ability user and me? Liu Yunfei smiled and bumped him on the shoulder. Gu Qi smiled and said nothing. The obsession flashed in Song Shi's eyes. A strong man with superb appearance and amazing strength, how could she not be tempted? Only Qi Ying, who was sitting by the side, looked up at him, completely moved. Ah, the old father who saved food and money for his son. How touching! Sensing her gaze, Gu Qi raised his eyes and met the moved Qi Ying. What muscle is this girl twitching again? Song Shi noticed Gu Kai's gaze on Qi Ying, and frowned. She seemed to think of Qi Ying suddenly, and said without a trace, by the way, what will Qi Ying do tonight? Gu Qi came back to his senses, and after thinking for a while, he said, it's hot in summer, you and Mu Yu can just have someone to watch over you, and you don't have to sleep together. Then I'll go with her. Mu Yu ran outside all day today, so he should be tired tonight. This can be described as very understanding. Gu Qi nodded casually and said nothing. At night, Qi Ying followed the arrangement to live with Song Shi. But in fact, they all fell asleep in the factory cubicles, and each cubicle was next to each other. Qi Ying, isn't it? Song Shi asked suddenly while lying on the sleeping bag. Okay. In the dark, Qi Ying wrinkled her nose. This person clearly knows his name, why bother to ask again? Why did you appear in the supermarket today? Judging from the crystal nuclei brought back by Brother Gu, the number of zombies is not small. How did you survive there? Do not know. Don't know? How could you not know? I have no memory of what happened before. Well, since you don't want to say it, I won't force you either. Qi Ying frowned. How did this man understand what she meant? She felt uncomfortable, so she simply said oh and didn't speak again. But Song Shi obviously didn't want today's conversation to end here. You should have seen Gu Qi use his abilities today, right? Okay. Haha, do you think he is very powerful, and then envy him? That's not bad. Shouldn't you be a supernatural being? Qi Ying didn't know how to answer. She has powers similar to those of a supernatural being, but she is not a supernatural being. Everyone in the world envies the power of supernatural beings, but only we know how dangerous daily battles are. In fact, you should be glad that you are just an ordinary person and can safely live in a safe zone. Qi Ying was a little impatient. What is this man trying to say? Don't worry, we will safely send you to the safe zone. As supernatural beings, you'd better not get involved in our world. Now Qi Ying could hear the yin and yang in her words. She turned over and closed her eyes with displeasure. This man was really sick. 3 o'clock in the morning. Host! Host! Qi Ying woke up from her sleep in a daze. Oh, her alarm clock went off. She glanced at Song Shi who was sleeping next to her, got up quietly, and went out. Qi Ying yawned and walked past the doors of each cubicle. When she reached the last compartment, she stopped. She pressed her ear to the wall, but couldn't hear anything. That Gu Qi must be asleep, right? The system wondered, why did you ask me to wake you up at this time? Qi Ying, come and pay me a little. What reward? Qi Ying closed her eyes and put her hands on the door. She remembered that this one was called Gu Qi, and it seemed to be water and ice. When she opened her eyes again, there was a faint blue light in her eyes. The light penetrated into the wall along her palm, and then disappeared. Energy transmission? The voice of the system was a little surprised. It didn't expect that Qi Ying's strength was so strong that it could transmit such a huge amount of energy with only the medium. For supernatural beings, energy transmission is a very simple matter. But very few people do this. Passing on the ability to another person is an option that only the other person will consider when their life is in danger. There is no other reason, only because the loss in the process of energy transmission is greater than that transmitted to the other party. For example, when two people transmit supernatural energy through physical contact, the receiver can only obtain 40% of the sender's energy, and the remaining 60% will be consumed in the process. And like Qi Ying at this moment, directly sending supernatural energy through the wall. According to the system's judgment, at least 90% of it was lost. This way of using energy is too extravagant. It couldn't help but let out the same sigh as Gu Qi. This is really inhumane. The next day, everyone got up early, and they had to go on their way today, so they got up early to pack their things. The only thing that surprised them was that Gu Qi hadn't gotten up yet. You know, as the team leader, Gu Qi was always the first to get up to check vehicles and other weapons. Hey, why hasn't the captain come out yet? Song Shi also felt a little strange. Could it be that you killed so many zombies yesterday, so you're too tired? It's also possible. Liu Yunfei said so, but he still felt that it was unlikely. There have been many more difficult times than this before, and Gu Qi has never been in such a situation. He put down the bag in his hand, still not at ease. Hiss, I'd better go take a look. He took a few steps to the cubicle where Gu Qi was, and was about to knock on the door, but the door suddenly opened from the inside. It's Gu Qi. Sorry, it's a little late today. Captain, you. Liu Yunfei looked at him in surprise. Gu Kai's complexion was unprecedentedly good. Although his eyes were half closed as if he hadn't woken up yet, the state of his whole body was obviously different from before. Liu Yunfei suddenly discovered that Gu Qi had been in a state of mental distress all along. I didn't think it before, but today, when I compare it with yesterday, the gap is as big as a teenage social animal, and it's as big as a person who rested at home for half a year after resigning naked. Okay. You're feeling energized today. Really? He paused, maybe it's because of the supernatural breakthrough. Oh, supernatural breakthrough, what the hell? Yu almost thought he heard it wrong, Captain. Song Shi heard the words and hurried over. Brother Gu, you said, have you made a breakthrough? Gu Kai's reaction was not that big. His voice was still a little hoarse, and his head was not feeling well, but he was surprisingly sober. Damn it, don't you already level 7. Liu Yunfei was extraordinarily excited. You're the number 1. You're even earlier than Ye Wuhan. Gu Qi was still pressing the door with one hand, his head was lowered, showing no emotion. He always felt something weird. It is clear that he has not reached the time to break through. Standing behind the crowd, Qi Ying smiled softly. Ah, hidden merit and fame. She is really great. Gu Qi still felt something strange, but he didn't have the slightest idea. But seeing that Liu Yunfei and the others looked much more excited than himself, he didn't say much. Captain, please tell me how you broke through level 7? I heard people say before that level 6 depends on comprehension. Could it be that you had a sudden epiphany yesterday? No. Gu Qi paused, I fell asleep and passed away. I'll go. Captain Gu, is this a bit of Versailles? Even Mu Yu couldn't help complaining, but his face was also full of joy. That's right, for us, Captain, you are still hiding something. There must be some secret to break through. Lu Yunfei said with a smile, patting Gu Kai's arm. If I have to say it. Gu Qi frowned slightly, as if in a dream. I vaguely felt some power pouring into my body. But I'm not sure. Naturally, no one would believe such an answer. At most, they would think that Gu Qi had good talent and high understanding, so he broke through naturally without any effort. Song poetry, for example, is such an idea. With a smile on her face, when everyone else was chattering around Gu Qi and asking questions, she stood aside, silently looking at him with affectionate eyes. 7th level, the only one in the world with a 7th level ability. How can such a man keep her from being moved? As if aware of her gaze, Gu Qi suddenly raised his head to look at her. Su felt that her gaze was too hot, so he frowned. Song Shi panicked, quickly put away her admiration, gave him a blessed smile, and lowered her head. Her heart was beating extremely fast, but it was not because of shame, but because of fear. Her little thought for Gu Qi must not be discovered by him. The distance between her and Gu Qi was already far enough. If he notices something again, he will definitely alienate himself deliberately. She has been following this team for more than a year, and she knows Gu Kai's temper very well. She is clear now. Gu Kai's kindness is only towards his teammates, so she can only be treated differently by this man if she stays here. Gu Qi glanced at her, but out of the corner of his eye, he was attracted by another person sitting in the corner. The girl who was picked up yesterday sat there alone, looking at their group with a sweet smile on her face. He glanced at it, then looked away. Is it an illusion? How to put it? He inexplicably saw the meaning of begging to boast on her face. Gu Qi seriously denied the thoughts in his heart. Sure enough, the girl was so weird that he had weird thoughts when he saw her now. Host, do you still have the ability to help people upgrade their abilities? Qi Ying shook her head and replied, it's not me. She just restored Gu Kai's abilities to a saturated state. In fact, that person's use of the ability was surprisingly accurate, and he had already reached the critical point of breakthrough. She just did a small favor and gave it a push. I see. The rest of the people had finished their fun, and they were also preparing to go on their way. Lin Xuan, is everything in order? Lu Yunfei looked at the tall and strong man next to him and asked. Well, I brought everything including the gun. The rest of the big items are placed in Mu Yu's space. Okay. Then let's get on the road. Lin Xuan, Mu Yu, and Song Shi have always been in the same car. The reason is that several of their men agreed that it would be more appropriate for the only two women in the team to stay together. What's the matter between the two of them? Big men like them are sometimes inconvenient. Song Shi originally wanted to sit with Gu Qi, but everyone else agreed, and she couldn't refuse directly to avoid attracting the attention of others, so it was settled like this. Gu Qi looked at Qi Ying, who was the only one left, and said, the next base we pass by is the Clevel security area. Usually, someone will come to deliver basic supplies. After a while, we may be able to bring you to the Blevel area and merge. We'll just put you there. Qi Ying nodded. For a total of 3 days' journey, you and Mu Yu will be in the same car. Qi Ying glanced at them, and shook her head when she saw Song Shi put her things into the car. I want you together. Gu Qi was slightly taken aback. Why? Qi Ying wanted to say that it was because she didn't like that person named Song Shi. If it's a day and a half, it's fine. If she is really asked to listen to the yin and yang weirdness for 3 full days, she's really not sure if she can survive it. Because, crowded. She wanted to think about it, but Qi Ying didn't say it out of her mouth. Gu Qi. All right. Although he didn't think the 4 of them were crowded, Gu Qi never cared about such small things. The conditions that can be met at any time are not important to him at all. Go and sit in the back. Speaking, he put his things in the trunk of the car. But Song Shi, who just got into the car, was not calm at the moment. She turned her head and stared at Qi Ying, who had just easily asked to ride in the same car as Gu Qi. The position I had expected for a long time was easily occupied by an outsider. Her teeth were almost broken. Song poetry. It was Mu Yu's voice that interrupted her train of thought. What's wrong with you? It looks like you don't look well. Is there? Well, maybe it's because I didn't sleep well last night, maybe it was too noisy last night. She looked hesitant to speak. Oh, it's really windy around here. Put a layer over the sleeping bag tonight, and it will be much better. Mu Yu's head was so rigid that she didn't even notice what Song Shi meant. Song Shi cursed secretly, but still said softly, The other end. After setting off on the road, Gu Qi sat in front while Liu Yunfei drove the car. Only Gu Kai's window was open in the car, and Qi Ying saw him throwing an ice blade out from time to time. Occasionally, when he found many zombies nearby, he would ask Liu Yunfei to stop the car and wait for the cleaning to be completed before moving on. She noticed that today's ice blade is thicker than the one she saw in the supermarket yesterday, and the supernatural energy attached to it is also stronger. She lowered her head, hiding the smile on her lips. Puff! This man is really interesting. Liu Yunfei is not someone who can calm down, usually Gu Qi just doesn't talk much, but now there is an extra person in the car. He started chatting with Qi Ying after a while. Hey, I haven't asked you yet, how did you appear in that kind of place? Qi Ying gave the same reply as Song Shi, I don't know, I don't have much memory of what happened before. No impression? Why is that? I don't know, it's been there since I was conscious. This is also true. What about your parents, don't you have any impression? No. Gu Qi glanced in the rearview mirror of the car. Liu Yunfei muttered in doubt, you are really strange. Qi Ying smiled and didn't speak. They rested in a factory outside the city last night, and entered the urban area not long after they set off today. Of course, it has long since fallen into a zombie city. Gu Qi said, don't go in yet, check the energy supply of the car. Liu Yunfei stopped the car, glanced at the dial, and said, there is still half of it, I will fill up the energy. After finishing speaking, he turned on the communication device in the car and contacted Lin Sun and the others to replenish energy. Qi Ying looked ahead and found that Liu Yunfei just took out a black crystal from his bag, which looked like a zombie's crystal nucleus. However, the difference is that the zombie crystal nucleus is scarlet, and the color of this crystal is more black like ink. Liu Yunfei opened the cover under the dashboard, threw a few pills inside, and then closed the cover again. When he looked up at the dial again, the energy bar had already shown saturation. Qi Ying had a silent conversation with the system in her head, what is that? It seems to be a zombie crystal nucleus. Not quite. The container is indeed a zombie crystal nucleus, but the energy inside is not. After the end of the world, zombies occupy every point where oil is stored, and humans cannot control the pipelines. Moreover, these energy sources are also difficult to carry around. Humans have discovered that zombie crystal nuclei can store a large amount of energy, so they use the crystal nuclei as containers. Qi Ying, no wonder, yesterday I saw that they had absorbed all the powers in the crystal nucleus and didn't throw them away. However, this technology is not yet popularized. Only a small number of supernatural beings in the human alliance use it. Gu Qi and the others' cars should all have been remodeled by the alliance. Qi Ying, human alliance? Yes. After the end of the world, all kinds of top talents among human beings joined forces to form the Human Alliance. One of the most core parts of the alliance is the Virus Research Institute that Gu Qi and the others are currently working for. Qi Ying, well, human beings are really as tenacious as ever. When the car started, the number of zombies in the urban area was no more than here, so Liu Yunfei stopped talking and concentrated on driving. He needed to avoid a large number of zombie groups. Qi Ying was so bored that she simply turned her head to look out the window. Those zombies found them and gathered here like crazy. They were driving fast, but there were more and more zombies blocking the road ahead. This time it wasn't just Gu Kai's ice blade. Mu Yu's fire ability in front of Lin Sun's vehicle didn't drop at all, and all of them greeted the group of zombies. They seemed to be very busy, and Qi Ying didn't dare to disturb them for a while. She then called out the system and asked about the system mall. Although the system mentioned it before, she wasn't very interested in it at that time and didn't ask much. Your current points are 400 points, you can unlock the basic materials of the mall. The system opened the mall, and there were a variety of products in it, but most of the product grids were grey, indicating that she had not unlocked it. Qi Ying roughly glanced at it. What she has now unlocked are basic water and food needs. Bottled water costs 10 cents a bottle, while food is relatively cheap, and compressed biscuits cost 3 cents a bag. As for rice noodles, etc., which can be used for a long time, they are all 50 points. She glanced at the unlocked one again. The next few files are basic medicines, canned food, daily necessities, seeds. Seed? Qi Ying blinked. What is this for? Seeds are essential for human beings to return to normal life. Supplies are limited, and they will only be used less and less. With seeds, humans can produce food in unlimited quantities. Compared to materials, what humans lack more are seeds with good quality and high germination rate. After getting the answer, Qi Ying continued to read. After that, there are scarce medicines, various knives and firearms. And on top. Qi Ying stared at it for a while. A large bottle of turquoise, medicine? A large bottle of turquoise, medicine? She glanced at the price and was a little taken aback. 1 million points per bottle? There are 2 million points just for unlocking. This is a medicine for the treatment of zombie virus. Infected people can be cured by taking it before the mutation occurs. Qi Ying, wow! In addition to being expensive, there are no other problems. Qi Ying, this thing. Can I hand it in after I exchange it? What? Qi Ying, hand it in. Didn't you say that Gu Qi belongs to the Zombie Virus Research Institute? I should be able to give this medicine to them. This. Theoretically speaking, it is possible. Qi Ying, that's good. No, it panicked. It checked its own data, and did not find such a constraint in this bottle of potion. That's why it's a little disturbing. If Qi Ying really handed over the medicine to the research institute, once the medicine for the treatment of zombie virus is analyzed and mass-produced, the end of the world may be much earlier. But after thinking about it for a while, the system was relieved again. It was originally afraid that the world line would deviate from the plot in the original book. But if you think about it carefully, the plot has already collapsed. Isn't the purpose of finding Qi Ying also for human beings to survive this apocalyptic crisis? Qi Ying looked at the headshot zombies outside the window, pursed her lips symbolically, expressing her sadness, and actually chatted with the system in her mind. Qi Ying, where are they going? I am not sure as well. I only have the original storyline, but it's pretty much crumbling now. Coupled with the fact that Gu Qi is in the villain camp, their whereabouts themselves do not have much ink. Qi Ying glanced at Gu Qi, who was concentrating on chopping melons and vegetables, and Liu Yunfei, who was manipulating the car to plan the route. After hesitating for a while, he decided not to disturb them. She's busy with business, so it's better for her to be quiet as an oil bottle. Then she took out a pocket knife from her pocket, and 2 twigs which she had broken off from the tree before she set out, and began to whittle the wood. Gu Qi threw the ice blade halfway, and was about to look at the situation behind the car from the rear-view mirror, when he caught a glimpse of Qi Ying cutting across. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 1, and the points are increased by 100. Qi Ying raised her head in doubt, walked around but didn't see anything special, and lowered her head again to work on her business. How can the Virgin Mary be separated from the cross? Gu Qi turned his head, with a heartbroken expression on his face. This girl is hopeless. After the car drove for a long way and the number of zombies decreased slightly, Liu Yunfei finally got a little more thought. He pointed to Qi Ying, and took the initiative to explain, "Look, that's the supermarket from yesterday. That's where we found you yesterday. This city should also be your home before the end of the world." Qi Ying was startled, and looked in the direction he pointed, and indeed saw the sign of the large supermarket last night. "The urban area is too dangerous. We first went out to explore the way last night, and we were sure we could get through. We dared to lead the team from here this morning." Qi Ying wondered, "Why don't you go around? It should be safer outside the city than here." Liu Yunfei smiled, "I can't help it, there are people waiting for us to help." Relief? She wanted to ask a few more questions, but Liu Yunfei kicked the gas pedal to speed up, choking back her words. "Lin Xuan, hurry up ahead. Otherwise, I will rear-end." Liu Yunfei shouted at the communicator. Then, a chuckle came from the communicator, and after a few seconds, Lin Xuan cursed softly, "You idiot!" To Qi Ying's surprise, their destination turned out to be in a place similar to an underground garage in the city. Logically speaking, there should be a lot of zombies in this open underground environment. After all, this dark and hidden environment is just right for hiding. In fact, the number of zombies inside is indeed a lot. Neither car was driven in, only parked outside. But there is no one in the car, and generally speaking, zombies will not attack an empty car. After getting off the car, several people got together according to the instructions of the caregiver. "Be careful, there may still be guys alive inside." He was the first to lead the way and the first to enter the garage. "Safe." He turned his head, "Come in." Qi Ying poked her head out after following, and parted her lower lip in surprise when she saw the scene inside. Inside the garage, the corpses of zombies were piled on the ground. A few of them went in, but there was no place to stay. A cold electronic voice suddenly came out of the huge underground garage, "Checking identity, identity confirmation human, safe. Please show your pass." Qi Ying looked around, and finally saw a red spot of light protruding from the center where the zombies piled up into a hill. And that piece of ground seems to be a disc-shaped metal that protrudes upwards. Gu Qi raised his hand, revealing the bracelet on his wrist. "Identity confirmation, Senior Commander of the Institute, Gu Qi." Boom! With a loud noise, the big disc suddenly moved. The corpses of the zombies covering it bounced in all directions due to the impact of this moment. Qi Ying sighed softly in her heart. It seems that the situation of human beings is more optimistic than she imagined. Such a weapon seems to be more than enough to deal with zombies. No. Hearing her thoughts, the system's voice suddenly appeared. The current zombie virus is still in its infancy, and soon, these weapons will be unable to resist their attacks. As soon as the system spoke, the metal disc had been lifted completely. Qi Ying glanced inside, and there was a ladder leading directly to the bottom. Gu Qi looked at the crowd and motioned for them to go in first. Qi Ying still held the pile of wooden sticks in her hand. She struggled for a few seconds, and decided to go on without these burdens. There were a lot of dead zombies around, so she just picked two and threw them over. Qi Ying walked over, looked at the densely packed zombies around her, and at the newly carved cross in her hand. She was speechless for a moment. So many. Which one should I give? Her movements were watched by others. Song Shi frowned. What is this woman up to? As for Mu Yu and the others who had seen Qi Ying spitting tears at the zombies before, their faces were expressionless. Especially Gu Qi, watching Qi Ying running towards those zombies, felt extremely calm. Qi Ying lingered for a few seconds, and finally handed the only 2 crosses in her hand to the 2 lucky guys who had the ugliest death. Before leaving, she kindly spared them a few seconds. Amitabha. The corner of Gu Kai's mouth twitched. What kind of religious hybrid is this? And Lu Yunfei sighed again. Sure enough, no matter how many times I saw this girl's behavior, she was always so weird. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 5, and the points are increased by 500. Your current accumulated points have reached 1000 points. The basic drug bar is unlocked. Qi Ying didn't dare to delay for too long. She said a few words Amitabha Buddha intentionally, and then quickly left from the 2 lucky guys. Song Shi frowned, and snorted very quietly. What idiot, praying to those zombies. Gu Qi looked at Qi Ying with complicated eyes. Fortunately, Qi Ying didn't meet his gaze, otherwise she would definitely understand what it means to caring for the mentally retarded eyes. Don't be dazed, go in quickly. Gu Qi urged the dull-looking crowd. After everyone came in, the metal door slowly closed. Yo, Captain Gu. A young man in a lab coat came out with a frivolous smile on his face. Hello. Gu Qi looked at the man, and just greeted him politely, apparently he didn't know him before. Qi Ying was a little strange. Why does this person know Gu Qi, but Gu Qi doesn't know him? The system replied, the voice mentioned just now that Gu Qi is the senior commander of the research institute. Here, almost no one does not know him. Qi Ying, senior commander, is he very powerful? Superb. There are a total of 8 senior commanders in the 2 most core research institutes of the Human Alliance. However, Gu Kai's strength is that he does not have any medical and biological research experience. Qi Ying opened her eyes wide. Oh shit! Understand? He was able to become a commander entirely because of his force value and the value he brought to the research institute from his exploration outside. This is an honor that even the hero Ye Wuhan does not have. Qi Ying, I heard from Lu Yunfei. He is also a 6th level supernatural power user. Yes, Ye Wuhan is also a senior commander, but he is from another research institute. Just as he was talking, the man over there squinted at Gu Qi and spoke. Is this here to deliver supplies for us? The man looked contemptuous. Gu Qi paused and looked up at him. Well, I came here after receiving the message from here. Hey, what kind of commander am I, so I'm a delivery guy. Hey, what are you talking about? Lu Yunfei couldn't bear it, and said directly. Xia Ren, what are you talking about? Another person wearing a protective mask came out from behind. The man took off his mask. It's an old man. The man he called Xia Ren pursed his lips, not very convinced. In the first place, I thought how capable. A martial artist with decent hands and feet, nothing special in my opinion, how can he be a commander? Qi Ying asked in her heart, this man is so proud, could he be stronger than Gu Qi? How is this possible, Qi Ying, then why? There are so many pink eye diseases in this world. There are many pink eye diseases in this world. Qi Ying was silent. Lu Yunfei wanted to say something, but Gu Qi stopped him lightly. The rest of the team members also took a deep breath. Give them something, and we have to continue on our way. It won't take too long. On the contrary, the old man was a little embarrassed and said, let's stay and have something to eat. It's not convenient for you to travel, but we can still guarantee the basic electricity here, so we can cook you a hot meal. Just as Gu Qi was about to refuse, the old man had already ordered the people inside to prepare food. He had no choice but to swallow the words of refusal silently. He tilted his head and looked at Mu Yu. Mu Yu, give them the supplies. Mu Yu kept a cold face, but still obeyed his order, and took out the water and food from the supermarket last night from the space. Is there any progress in the research institute? Gu Qi asked. The old man sighed, not yet. The cause of the zombie virus has not been found, and it is difficult to make a specific medicine at present. The only thing that has made some progress now is the research on the zombie crystal nucleus. What happened to the crystal nucleus? Well, from the outbreak of the zombie virus to the present, the initial zombie samples we collected, compared with the current ones, can store at least 30% less energy. Gu Qi frowned. Is it even 30%? My team members and I, our abilities are also constantly increasing, so we don't feel the changes in the zombies' strength. Boom! As he said this, the round metal door opened again. The ones who came in this time were a few people carrying the bodies of zombies, all wearing protective clothing. The old man introduced, they are usually responsible for taking samples outside. The dead zombies at the door are the best subjects for our experiments. Occasionally, when we are lucky, we can pick up a few who still have vital signs. This seemed to be commonplace to Gu Qi and the others, and after a glance, they calmly looked away. No one noticed that among the people carrying the zombie's body, one of them had a slightly stiff gait, and his movements were a little stuck. Alas! Now we kill the same number of zombies, and the energy consumed is almost twice as much as usual. The old man sighed. Gu Qi narrowed his eyes and said seriously, it's not just us, they are also evolving. Yet, I just don't know how far they can evolve. Where's the Ability Research Institute? How's their progress? The old man shook his head, the same, there is no way. But I heard that they already have other methods, which are currently in the experimental stage. Qi Ying silently digested the information he heard. The system said before that there are 2 research institutes in total, and Gu Kai's is the Virus Research Institute, so what they are talking about now is the Ability Research Institute where Ye Wuhan is. Why tell them so much? These people have never studied virology, how could they understand? Xiao Ren. Shut up! The old man's face turned red with anger. Qi Ying listened from behind, thinking that the person who spoke was called a little man. It was a bit outrageous, and I couldn't help but glanced at it. It doesn't matter if you look at it, the little man was stunned when he saw her sticking out his head, staring straight at her with a pair of eyeballs with swollen eyelids. Qi Ying felt a little uncomfortable under his gaze. She shrank her neck and turned her head back again, avoiding his gaze. The villain is not forgiving. He changed his previous attitude towards Gu Qi, he didn't even say those eccentric words, and just stared blankly behind Gu Qi. Seeing this scene, Song Shi was inexplicably happy. Originally, she was a little shy about Qi Ying's beauty surpassing her own, but now she was relieved. Excessive beauty, without the ability to support it, will only become a disaster. The way I am now, it's not easy to look coveted, and I have a beautiful and proud capital, which is just right. Gu Qi naturally also noticed the change in this person's attitude, glanced back and immediately understood the reason. His complexion fell instantly, and he said coldly, Lu Yunfei, pack your things, let's go. Hey! The old man was a little anxious, didn't you say to leave after eating? Gu Qi was so angry right now that he didn't even want to give the old man any face. He rolled his eyelids, I'm afraid we can't bear the food here. This. Yeah, let's go after a meal. It was the one surnamed Ren who spoke. He stared at Qi Ying without blinking, showing his obscenity. Hat. Gu Qi just sneered. If it weren't for this guy's usefulness in researching zombie viruses, he would have already started beating people. However, this person didn't notice the abnormal atmosphere at all, and threw out the bait self-righteously, we have meat here, chicken grown in the laboratory, you can't eat it outside. These days, all the frozen meat outside has gone bad. Gu Qi turned around and opened the metal door directly with his authority. Seeing that they were really going to leave, Xia Ren immediately stepped forward and walked to Qi Ying. What's your name? Let me tell you, staying in our laboratory is much safer than taking risks outside with them. Qi Ying tilted her head, did not answer his question, but asked instead, you said there is meat here. Seeing her asking this, Xia Ren immediately became excited. Yes, there is meat. You stay to eat, they just made your portion, if you all leave, what a waste. Well. Gu Qi, who had already placed the ladder, heard their conversation and turned to look at Qi Ying. He pursed his lips, the curvature of his lips felt straight, looking a bit cold. That's not necessary. You eat our share, you need to eat more. Qi Ying said with a smile. Xia Ren was taken aback when he heard the words, and subconsciously said, why? Qi Ying raised her hand, touched her head, and then made several gestures in the air at the same height. Look. You're not as tall as me. You are thin and weak, and you are not tall. Eat more to grow your body. Pfft. Liu Yunfei smiled ruthlessly. Yet, you eat more food, there is meat and so on, maybe you can still have a go. Yes. Mu Yu stepped forward and hooked Qi Ying's shoulders, and also looked at Xia Ren. How old are you this year? If you pass 20, it won't be too long. Hurry up. You guys. Xia Ren's face turned pale. Mu Yu hooked Qi Ying and turned around neatly, leading her up the stairs a few steps. The rest of the people ignored him and quickly climbed up the ladder with their things on their backs. Gu Qi was the last one. The moment he stepped on the ladder, he turned his head and looked at Xia Ren with a cold gaze. He raised the corners of his lips. Come on! When Xia Ren realized it and wanted to yell, the metal door was slowly closed. When Qi Ying came out of the underground laboratory, she found that the eyes of everyone looking at her were not right. Especially Mu Yu and Liu Yunfei looked at her with gratified eyes, which made her a little awkward. Even Gu Qi seemed to be in a weirdly good mood. Qi Ying. What's wrong? Because of their identities, it is inconvenient for them to say serious things to their colleagues, and the host helped them off. Qi Ying, oh, she also raised the corners of her mouth, in a good mood. In fact, it was because she couldn't get used to that villain at that time, she impulsively imitated a few words of yin and yang. The system looked at her with emotion. It discovered that when Qi Ying got along with these people, she actually had a vague understanding of many things, but her intuition was astonishingly accurate. When getting into the car, Mu Yu greeted her with a smile. Do you want to take our car? Qi Ying glanced at Song Shi, who was not looking well, and shook her head. Okay. Mu Yu was a little disappointed. Those reluctant eyes made Qi Ying's scalp tingle. After getting in the car and starting again, Qi Ying was still sitting behind and cutting her cross. Liu Yunfei, on the other hand, chattered endlessly to Gu Qi about everything that happened in the laboratory just now, and occasionally cued Qi Ying suddenly, praising her for her courage in resisting evil forces. After about an hour, they were finally out of town. Sizzle. Liu Yunfei glanced at the communicator that made the sound. Captain, it's from the headquarters. Gu Qi turned it on and connected. Hello, Virus Research Institute, Commander Number 1 Gu Qi. Captain Gu. We detected that the base near you has been invaded by zombies, and the base sent out a distress signal just now. Gu Qi frowned, and said, report the coordinates. What's the base number? A downtown area, base 36. Liu Yunfei slammed on the brakes, and Gu Kai's movements also stopped suddenly. Number 36. It was the research institute where they had just sent supplies. Gu Qi quickly switched the communication device, and said, Lin Xuan, go back the way you came. Even if the two cars drove at the fastest speed, it took a full half an hour to arrive. Gu Qi kept his face sullen all the way, and the rest of them were in no mood to speak. Even if no one mentions it, they all know it well. Half an hour. I am afraid that there are no living people in base 36. He turned to Qi Ying and said, you don't have any abilities, so just stay in the car. If there's any situation, use this. He pointed to the communicator in front of the car. Oh! While making arrangements, Gu Qi suddenly caught a glimpse of zombies staring at them all around. Forget it, you follow me. It is good. In the underground garage, the round metal door that was supposed to be closed was wide open. And the number of zombies on the ground was 3 times more than when they first came. Gucci and the others had to step on 2 thick layers of zombie corpses to barely pass. After quickly cleaning up the living zombies in the garage, they were ready to go down to check the situation. Captain. This. Liu Yunfei pointed to the attack point on the wall that was blocked by unknown pieces of flesh. Gucci walked over and pushed away the pieces of meat, revealing the muzzle with the smell of smoke left inside. There are more than 30 such places in the entire underground garage, and there are sufficient ammunition stored in them. Originally, these things were used by people in the laboratory to deal with zombies. There has never been a flaw in this method before, not to mention that all attack points are now consciously blocked. He immediately understood why there were several times more zombie corpses on the ground in just half an hour. They launched a collective attack, some used to block the fire, and the other part found a gap to block the attack point. Even for this reason, they can choose to sacrifice most of their kind. Gucci gritted his teeth, they have become smarter. Underground laboratory. There is another door between the place where they usually conduct experiments and the hall that comes directly down from the metal door. If they want to go in, they must clean up the zombies here before they can pass through here. Ho ho! Liu Yunfei raised his hand, and set fire to the zombie that jumped over with its mouth wide open. Hey! There was another zombie in a lab coat. Everyone present was stunned. The people inside, really turned into zombies. Look carefully, among the zombies wearing experimental protective clothing, there is also a very short male zombie. That was the person they were full of complaints not long ago. Xia Ren. Gucci took a breath and forced himself to calm down and direct. Yunfei, Mu Yu, you deal with these guys at the door. Song Shi, you are here with them too. They not only have to find survivors, but also ensure that the data in the laboratory is not destroyed. The abilities of Liu Yunfei and Mu Yu are both fire-type abilities. If they are not well grasped, the data in the laboratory may be burned. It's safest for them to stay outside. Clear. Clear. Lin Xuan, follow me. He glanced at Qi Ying and said, you must follow me closely. Qi Ying nodded. Gucci rewarded several ice blades from the rushing zombies, and dark red blood burst out from their brow bones and splashed all over the ground. However, no one fell. The ice blade, which was supposed to pass through the zombie's entire brain, could barely penetrate half of it at this time. They don't know what the pain is, and they stagger and continue to move towards the prey in their eyes. Standing behind him, Lin Xuan raised his hand, and many vines grew out of nowhere on the ground, wrapped around their ankles and arms, barely stumbling their footsteps. Gu Kai's face was serious, and he condensed a few ice blades again. This time, he used twice as many abilities as before. He let go of his fingers, only to hear the sound of ice piercing through the air, and the zombies fell down. Qi Ying glanced, and the other end of the ice blade just passed through the zombie's head. Lin Xuan, use twice the power. Lin Xuan gasped when he heard this. Twice the ability, the growth rate of these guys is a bit too fast. He concentrated on using his powers and covered the road leading to the laboratory gate with vines. All zombies blocking the way are restricted by these entangled vines. Seeing this, Gucci quickly made a move. In a few breaths, the vines on the ground were already soaked in rancid blood. The surroundings are temporarily clean. Gucci took a few steps forward and looked inside through the crack in the door. Seeing the situation inside, Gucci took half a step back. Gu team. Too many. Lin Xuan was taken aback, and hurried over. Inside the door, in an area less than 200 square meters, there were 50 or 60 zombies moving around. More importantly, he did not see any trace of humans. Lin Xuan, you step back and hook the handle with the wood power. What are you going to do? It's too slow to come one by one, and the risk is too great. Lin Sun quickly reacted, took Qi Ying back a few steps, and at the same time hooked the doorknob with vines as instructed by Care Qi. Gu Qi retreated a dozen meters away from the door and said, "Open the door." Hearing this, Lin Sun tightened the vines, and the door opened, and the zombies inside noticed the food outside the door, and rushed to the door one after another. Even many of those who were squeezed to the side crawled forward. Ho ho! Food! Ho 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 ho! Don't squeeze! It's all mine! Gu Qi stood in front of him alone, and the ice blue light in his eyes flashed past. A faint blue halo enveloped him, wrapping him from top to bottom. Qi Ying only felt that the surrounding temperature dropped rapidly. She turned around and saw the scene in front of her. With Gu Qi as the dividing line, everything behind him is as usual, only the temperature has dropped by at least 10 degrees. However, a large area in front of him was covered with a layer of cold frost. A thick layer of ice formed on the ground and walls. Those zombies who were so excited just now are all frozen into icemen, staying in place without moving. Qi Ying took a closer look tentatively. Died? Gu Qi answered the doubts in her heart, and he said to Mu Yu and others who had already walked over, their vitality is very tenacious. If you don't cut off their heads, they will get up again after a while. These ice can last for a while, go ahead and find survivors. Mu Yu and others behind also followed. Gu Qi entered the door, took care of the few living zombies in the laboratory, and searched around. Well! Someone! There was a kick and a thud under the table, and a ball of people rolled out of it. Help! Was the voice of an adult male. People indeed! Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. This person should have been hiding at the bottom all the time. Fortunately, he was not discovered by the zombies. Liu Yunfei pulled him up from the ground and asked, "What about the others? Is there anyone else alive besides you?" The man seemed to be frightened, and he stuttered, "No, I don't know. What happened? We were all fine before we left. Yes, our members went out to collect zombie corpses. I don't know when they were bitten by zombies. When we found out, he had already summoned zombies to attack the research institute. However, these guys never knew how to cooperate before. Usually, when you meet a group of them, they just have the same prey, and they just happen to be together. Why all of a sudden?" Liu Yunfei frowned puzzled. "They're evolving." Gu Qi said firmly, "Not only are they evolving physically, but a considerable part of them should also be improving intellectually." He said solemnly, "Professor Yu's theory has been verified. He said before that zombies will continue to evolve. The one with the highest force and intelligence may become the leader of the zombies, and the rest of the low-level zombies will obey their orders. Look first to see if there are others. And you?" Gu Qi looked at the survivor. "You send the preserved experimental data to the headquarters." The man shook his head and said, "The data are basically updated simultaneously, but the research results are all completed by the group. I usually do most of the work of sample collection, and I didn't directly participate in the research. I don't know where their results are." As he spoke, there was a hint of crying in his voice. Song Shi comforted, "It's okay, it's a blessing to be able to survive." Qi Ying tilted her head. She seems to be heard something. Her hearing is much sharper than that of ordinary people, and she can perceive even small, hard to notice sounds. It seems to be in the front, a little bit ahead, to the left. There is. It came out of this big box. It was a huge, snow-white oval cabin, just big enough to accommodate a person. There are about a dozen such large boxes in this area. She leaned over and listened carefully. There was indeed a sound of friction similar to that of a bark, which was very weak, and it was even more difficult to hear clearly through this kind of material with strong sound insulation. Qi Ying turned around and opened her mouth. "Gu." She hesitated for a moment what to call it. Captain and Captain Gu? No, she's not his teammate either. But Gu Qi should be much older than her, so it seems a bit strange to call her name directly. She frowned lightly, feeling a little troublesome. She simply didn't think about it so much, and shouted directly, "Gucci!" Gucci was really startled by this sound. One is that Qi Ying's voice is very loud, the other reason is that after the outbreak of the zombie virus, almost no one would call him by his name, and after he was promoted to commander, even the top management of the Human Alliance had to call him Team Gu. Surprised and shocked, he still stood up silently. "Exist." He walked towards Qi Ying. "Here, seems to be someone." Qi Ying pointed to the huge white oval cabin. "Sure. Anyway, there is a voice." Gucci was startled, closed his eyes and listened carefully for a while, but he didn't hear any sound. Qi Ying pointed dissatisfiedly, "Get closer." Gucci leaned over to listen. Qi Ying stretched out her index finger and pressed the top of his hair, and put his ear on the oval cabin. Gu Kai's eyes lit up. It's the sound of human fingernails rubbing against each other. He got up quickly. This is the sample storage compartment, which is usually the place where zombie corpses are stored, and there should be a button to open it. He fumbled around the storage compartment, and finally found the switch button on the right side. The hatch opened, revealing the old man inside whose face was red and purple due to lack of oxygen. The air entered the inner cabin, and he took a big gulp of the outside air. "Cough cough cough. Teacher," the surviving man said in surprise when he saw the old man in the cabin. Gucci immediately prepared to open other hatches. "There's none over there," Qi Ying whispered. She heard no other voices from the large boxes. Gucci paused, but still bent down to press it stubbornly. "It's useless, Commander Gu," the old man said suddenly. "I was sent in by my last student. There is no one else in the storage compartment." Gucci slowly put down his hand and straightened up. "Song Shi, check their injuries, and then stay under the access door to wait for orders. Just now, Professor Lin was deprived of oxygen for a long time. Report any problems in time." "Okay, Brother Gu." "For the rest of the people, those frozen zombies have not been solved. We need to cut off the heads of those guys to ensure that they will not be resurrected. Don't let the crystal nuclei go, collect them all. Understand?" "Clear. Clear. Understood, Captain Gu." Qi Ying pursed her lower lip. She felt that this person should be sad, but he seemed to seldom show his negative emotions. "Commander. Is this the commander?" The author has something to say. The next chapter restores the sand sculpture style. Liu Yunfei took out a knife from the inner pocket of his clothes, and mercilessly cut off the head of the zombie closest to him. The others also stepped forward to deal with the frozen zombies. Gucci beheaded halfway through, when he suddenly thought that there was an overly soft-hearted Qi Ying standing behind him. She cried like that when she saw zombies being killed before, but now she sees such a scene. Don't be scared out of any psychological shadow. Gucci turned his head to look in Qi Ying's direction, and said directly, "You can stay away." He couldn't say the rest. Gucci looked at Qi Ying, who was holding up a zombie's head and staring at its eyes, unable to speak for a long while. When he lowered his head again, a headless zombie with a bumpy neck stood out. Judging from the broken marks on its neck, it seems that it was broken off by hand. Obviously, the girl holding the zombie's head and staring at it was the culprit of all this. "Gucci." He turned his head silently, and quietly continued cutting melons and vegetables. But only two were broken, and he couldn't help being impulsive, and turned his head to look in Qi Ying's direction again. She was holding the head, shaking it vigorously up and down. Slap! An unidentified object covered with red ice fell from the cut surface under the head. When Qi Ying saw it, she clamped the head with one hand, squatted down and picked up the fallen piece of ice with the other hand. Without any psychological barriers, she wiped off the outer layer of blood ice with her hands until the scarlet crystal nucleus inside was exposed. She raised her hand and stared at the crystal nucleus in the direction of the light for a while. The structure inside the irregular lens is beautiful, shining brightly under the light. Before the zombie virus broke out, no one would have thought that such a beautiful gem was born from those disgusting zombies. When Qi Ying put her hand down, she realized that someone beside her seemed to be staring at her for a long time. She turned her head and found that it was Gu Qi who was supposed to clean the heads of the zombies. Okay? Gu Qi snapped back to his senses and turned his head away from her. Call. Take a deep breath. Nothing surprising, eh? He gritted his teeth, couldn't help being impulsive, and glanced over there secretly. The harmless girl is reinstalling the chubby head in her hand to the zombie that only has Jinjiang's indescribable parts. It's just that because the head was pulled directly from the body, the cut surface was uneven, and Qi Ying shook a few times just now. Therefore, at this time, the head is placed on it, and it is impossible to connect perfectly. The zombie's head was raised at a strange angle, and the entire face was almost parallel to the ceiling. Then, the girl took out the carcut cross from her pocket, and placed it firmly between its eyebrows. She clasped her fingers in a circle, closed her eyes and prayed silently for him. Under the light, the holy and beautiful face glowed with a soft halo. The girl's long curled eyelashes drooped down, and her whole body exuded a sacred and warm radiance, as beautiful as a painting. Anyone who sees this scene will firmly believe without hesitation that the girl praying quietly in front of her is an angel sent from heaven. If Gu Qi hadn't seen the series of operations just now. There was a crack in Gu Kai's calm expression, and he turned his head quickly. One more look, and he felt like he was going insane. Captain, I've finished cleaning up here. Me too. Gu Qi nodded and said, thanks for your hard work. Our task objective needs to be temporarily changed. Send Professor Lin and the student back to the Alliance headquarters first. Others heard the words and had no objection. Gu Qi looked at everyone. Go to Song Shi's side to meet up first, and then you wait for me in the car. After everyone left, Gu Qi searched the entire laboratory to make sure that nothing was missed before walking away. Before leaving, he took another look at the zombie with the cross hanging on it. As if sensing his thoughts, the cross wobbled and fell from the green forehead. Gu Qi picked it up from the ground and put it in its original position. He turned his head impatiently. Amitabha. 2 days later. Because the journey back to the headquarters was about the same as their team's original route, Gu Qi followed the original promise and sent Qi Ying to a Clevel safety zone passing by. There are less than 40 people in the Clevel security area, most of them are adult men, and there are only about 10 women, and 2 of them have children. Seeing Gu Qi and his party, most of them didn't react, just lowered their heads and went about their own business. Only a few muscular men looked their way from time to time. Put Qi Ying here, they planned to stay here for one night. After leaving the laboratory, they hardly had a good rest in the past 2 days. Now that I am in the safe zone, of course I need to make some adjustments. Liu Yunfei was still a little reluctant to part with Qi Ying, and thought about it for a long time in the safe zone. Hey, if only you had supernatural powers, you could still be with us. Even if the ability is not strong, if you can protect yourself, it's good to be a mascot. Holding some water and food they gave her in her hands, Qi Ying forced a smile. She's a little distracted now. In the farthest corner of the safe area, sat women like her. But the state of these people was as skinny as she had never seen before. There are 2 people with slightly better looks who are in better condition, but their clothes are already tattered, and their bodies are also covered with bruises. There was almost no communication between them, they just hugged their bodies silently. There was still a little brilliance in the eyes of the 2 children, and they caressed the baby in swaddling with their skinny hands. Hey! As they were talking, a hoarse and unpleasant male voice suddenly interrupted them. You guys, where are you from? Liu Yunfei raised his eyebrows and stared at him rather frivolously. Busy. Hee hee, those who are wandering outside should have supplies, right? Hand them over. Oh? Why? Why? With your grandfather's fist. The man made a gesture and came over, and a woman with a child behind reminded Liu Yunfei, be careful, he has a knife on him. One of the men who was with the man cast a cold glance at the woman who was speaking, and silently threatened her with her talk. The woman shut her mouth, resentful and silent. Oh, there is a knife. Liu Yunfei said leisurely. He, how about it, hand over the supplies, and we might make your life more comfortable. As he said that, the man suddenly noticed Qi Ying who was holding the supplies next to Liu Yunfei, and his eyes were about to stare. Woman, still such a beautiful woman. This appearance, even before the end of the world, is definitely the best that people can only look at from a distance. Seeing that he didn't move for a long time, the accomplices behind couldn't help urging, Zhigang, what are the ink marks? The man came back to his senses and realized that he hadn't done his business yet. Humph, let's deal with these people first. This woman should also belong to one of them. When all these people are dead, won't she automatically belong to him? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. These few of his accomplices will definitely share a share. Usually it's fine, but now such a top-notch woman, it's really a pity for him to share a few people. Hey! Sensing his lustful gaze, Liu Yunfei said with a cold face. Humph, you really want to die? The man swung a punch, full of momentum. Liu Yunfei avoided the body in an unhurried manner, using only one hand to pinch the fist that was hitting him with all his strength. He turned his wrist, and the man's arm was forcefully pulled behind his back. Ah 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 ah! After one arm was dislocated, the man resisted the pain from his shoulder and took out a knife from his waist with the other hand. Liu Yunfei squinted his eyes, let out a light snort, and raised his foot to kick his chest. The man was so kicked that he couldn't get up, and lay on the ground for a long time without making a sound. That's all you can do. To deal with this kind of empty air, there is no need for him to use abilities. He glanced at those accomplices, and said coldly, you, want to come together? One of them couldn't bear the breath, and made a gesture to get up to fight him, but was stopped. The man who stopped him lowered his voice, he is skilled, and there are so many accomplices, we have no chance of winning. Seeing that they had rested their minds, Liu Yunfei sat back slowly. Thinking that Qi Ying would stay in this kind of place in the future, he frowned. Brother Gu. Okay. It's nothing. He swallowed the words silently. Living in the last days, no one can live in peace and security. He knows the pressure on Gu Qi better than anyone else, and there is really no way to take Qi Ying to take risks. One more person, one more burden on him. What's more, instead of living with them in a life where life and death cannot be guaranteed, why don't you leave Qi Ying Gru in the safe zone? At least, you can save your life. Gu Qi responded lightly, he was actually distracted just now. It's not because of those troublesome men, but because of Qi Ying. Ever since entering the safe zone, Qi Ying's gaze has almost always been on those sallow and thin women. This kind of situation was the norm in the last days, but the way she looked at those people somehow made him a little concerned. How to say that expression? It was as if she was seeing the cruelty of the end times for the first time, and the blankness in her eyes almost made Gu Qi unbearable. Qi Ying got up suddenly and walked towards the women who were gathered together, but almost no one paid attention to her. Their faces were completely numb. Are you hungry? The woman holding the child raised her head and nodded slowly. Qi Ying put the food in her arms on the ground, it's all for you. The women looked at her one after another, and then moved their eyes to Qi Ying. But no one reaches for the food. It was the same woman holding the child, with trembling hands, tentatively took a bottle of water and compressed biscuits. Trembling, she opened the package, broke some biscuits into small pieces with her nails, and stuffed them into the child's mouth bit by bit. Immediately afterwards, the second and third people went to get food. The people behind also squeezed over, struggling to grab some food from there. They hurriedly put the food in their hands into their mouths, as if they were afraid that someone would grab it. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 10, and the points are increased by 1000. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 5, and the points are increased by 500. The electronic sound of the system kept ringing, but Qi Ying didn't seem to hear it. He lowered his eyes and looked at the ground where only the paper bags were left, and said nothing for a long time. Naturally, Liu Yunfei also saw this scene. He rubbed his forehead and shook his head. With such a temperament, it would be strange not to starve to death in this era. Brother Gu, this girl, you have to teach her. This is the end of the world, kindness is useless for survival. Gu Kai's eyes flickered slightly, and after a while he said, Mu Yu, take 2 bags of rice from the car and give them to them. Mu Yu obeyed, got up and walked out. There is no rice in the car, so the supplies are all in her space. Gu Qi said they were in the car in order not to expose the fact that they were supernatural beings. This is already a tradition every time he goes to the Clevel security area. 2 big sacks of rice, although these dozens of people can't last long, they can at least cushion their stomachs. Qi Ying! Liu Yunfei shouted loudly. Qi Ying came back to her senses and walked towards them. Liu Yunfei winked at Gu Qi, meaning Captain, tell me about her. Learning to be selfish is the first criterion for surviving in the last days. Gu Kai's lips tightened, and he only gave Qi Ying a casual look, but had no other reaction. Seeing that he didn't speak, Liu Yunfei was a little anxious. Captain, why don't you speak? Gu Qi rolled his eyelids. Say what? After all, this girl and they just met by chance, and the life and death of a stranger has nothing to do with him. He lowered his eyes and pulled the corner of his mouth in self-mocking. He is not capable of saving all people. Whether you can survive in this world depends entirely on luck. He can remind Qi Ying once or twice, but they are going to leave after all. Liu Yunfei froze for a moment. He rarely saw Gu Kai's expression so cold. He was silent and kept silent. Qi Ying was a little inexplicable. She was called over, but they didn't seem to have anything to say to themselves. She glanced at Gu Qi carefully. It always felt like he was sulking, and at himself. Fortunately, Mu Yu finally came back at this time, which relieved the embarrassing atmosphere of the 3 of them a lot. Carrying a bag of rice on her shoulder, she said, Captain Gu, 2 bags of rice are here. Okay. Almost everyone in the safety zone turned their heads at this moment, staring closely at the rice on Mu Yu's shoulder. Mu Yu's scalp was numb from the staring gaze, and he let go quickly, throwing the 2 bags aside. The people in the safe zone watched with eager eyes, but because of Liu Yunfei's force value just now, they dared not act rashly for a while. Mu Yu leaned over quietly beside Gu Qi. Captain Gu, this rice, what should I do? Same as usual. We'll leave it to them when we leave. Human beings have been hungry for a long time, and it is difficult to take care of other things. But when these people are full, they will start to wonder where their food came from. To avoid unnecessary trouble, they have always given their supplies to them when they leave. Everyone, rest early tonight. Knowing that she wanted to stay here, Qi Ying consciously didn't stay with Gu Qi and the others to rest, but stuck into the group of women she had given food to. She bowed slightly, and said softly, Excuse me, can I use a space? Because of Qi Ying's food, they treated Qi Ying fairly well, and told her to find a place, which was in the far corner. A curly-haired woman in her 30s saw her approaching and made room beside her. Because there was no water, the quilt was dirty, and the original white fabric was stained with many yellow and black stains. Qi Ying recognized her. It was the mother with the child, and she was the first to take food today. Halfway through the woman's movement, she seemed to realize that the things on her side were dirty, and her movements suddenly stopped. But Qi Ying had already walked over in small steps, her brows and eyes smiling like crescent moons. Is it for me? The curly-haired woman froze for a moment, then nodded subconsciously. Thank you. Qi Ying sat down with her knees bent. You are welcome. The woman subconsciously moved a little further away from Qi Ying. Water resources in the safe zone are very scarce, and she hasn't wiped her body or taken a bath for a long time, and even her body smells sour in this summer. But the little girl sitting next to her was clean, her skin was as smooth as fat, and she exuded a warm aura, as holy as a messenger from heaven. She was momentarily stunned. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 1. Okay? Qi Ying raised her eyes. What did she do? I didn't expect that the value of the Virgin can be increased by just relying on the face. Qi Ying tilted her head to the left, just in time to meet the ecstatic gaze of the curly-haired woman. What's wrong? The woman snapped back to her senses and coughed lightly to cover up her embarrassment. Such an adult, to stare at someone of the same obsessively. It's nothing, I just wanted to ask where you guys came from. The person who fought with the leopard today is pretty good, and you don't look like ordinary people. Qi Ying was stunned. Leopard should be the one who provoked Liu Yunfei today. Oh, I don't know either. I was not with them. I was saved by someone on the way and brought them here. They will leave tomorrow. What? You didn't leave with them? The woman asked in surprise. No, I went only to cause trouble. The face of the curly-haired woman changed instantly, and she said seriously, you must find a way to follow them, staying here will only make life worse than death. She lowered her voice. Women are at the bottom here. Have you seen those people? She motioned Qi Ying to look at the burly men with her eyes. The Human Alliance would have sent us supplies on a regular basis. Although there are not many things, these people can barely survive. But what about them? Qi Ying listened quietly. The woman sighed, they took away almost all the supplies, leaving only a little bit left for us. Not only that, they also... She bit her lower lip hard, but hesitated to speak. Qi Ying looked at her in a daze, until the system explained the meaning of the curly-haired woman in her mind, and she widened her eyes in disbelief. Seeing that she understood, the woman smiled wryly and said, I and another sister who is 2 years older than me, we have children, and we are the first to come to this safe zone. They look down on those who have children and look ordinary, I'm just lucky. Qi Ying listened in a daze, feeling that this place was completely different from the human beings she knew. In her impression, human beings always chat with each other before starting a group, and most of them are harmonious and cute. She was silent for a long time before she said, are there many places like this? Safety area? There are tens of thousands of clever safety areas, and almost every one of them has a situation like this, with less than 50 people. But not all safety areas are like this. The situation of Blevel and Alavel is much better. There are more than 1,000 Blevels, almost all of which are next to undamaged farmland. The situation can be better, with a few hundred people. As for the Alavel safety zone, they are all scattered next to the headquarters, and basically can guarantee basic living. People here, we dream of being merged into the Blevel security area one day. Seeing that Qi Ying was in a daze, the woman kindly comforted her, so, no matter what you do, you must follow the people who sent you here. You might survive if you go out. If you stay here, life is worse than death. Qi Ying didn't reply to her for a long while. She has never felt such an urgency to save this doomsday world for a moment. Host, rest assured, 2 million Holy Mother values, according to your current progress, you will definitely be able to save enough within 3 years. Qi Ying shook her head. Too slow. And even if she really exchanged the final potion and handed it over to the research institute, they still need time to analyze the ingredients. In half a year, at most half a year, she must get that bottle of broken medicine. After setting the goal, Qi Ying enthusiastically analyzed how to obtain the Holy Mother's value. There are 2 ways to obtain the Holy Mother value that she has discovered so far. One is to show a kind quality similar to the Holy Mother, the second is that she discovered it just after that, and the appearance of the Virgin Mary may also trigger the Virgin Mary value. However, it seems that the first method is obviously simpler than the second one. Because of the 5,000 points she currently has, only 100 of them are obtained because of the appearance of the Holy Mother. But the first method seems to take a long time to achieve the goal of 2 million points. Qi Ying frowned and thought for a moment, then suddenly thought of all her system malls. The food in the bottom column is what human beings need most in the last days, and it is precisely difficult to produce. The time when she got the most points was when she distributed the food to the survivors here today. And almost all the food in the system mall can be exchanged for less than 10 points. However, if she gains a bit of Holy Mother points, she can earn 100 points. Thinking of this, Qi Ying immediately exchanged 6 points for a piece of bread from the system mall. Because the curly-haired woman had a child, she would cry at night, and she was asked by the rest of the people to sleep in a position far away from the safe zone, which made it easier for Qi Ying to move. "Sister!" Qi Ying called her very softly. The woman was almost asleep. When a human is hungry, sleeping is the best way to reduce energy expenditure, so she gets sleepy very easily. She rubbed her eyes and stared confusedly. Why? Before she finished speaking, the woman only felt that a big and soft thing was stuffed in her arms. The aroma emanating from it was something she thought she would never have the chance to smell again in this life, the aroma of bread. She opened her eyes wide in surprise. The aroma of roasted wheat and sugar swept her nostrils, and her mouth kept secreting greedy saliva. "It smells so good." "Sister," quietly. The woman understood immediately. She hesitated for a while, but still resisted not putting the bread into her mouth immediately. Supplies are scarce for everyone. If she eats more, the little girl will suffer from hunger. In the dark, Qi Ying told her with mouth shapes. "Quick! Eat!" She winked at the woman, indicating not to worry about herself. Under the temptation of this fragrance, no one can resist any more. The woman took a big bite and tried her best to soften the sound of chewing. The aroma of wheat, and the sweetness. The moment the food was swallowed, she could hardly restrain the joy in her heart. And Qi Ying also heard the system's notification tone as she wished. The value of the Holy Mother is increased by 1, and the points are increased by 100. Her eyes lit up. It works.